Hey everybody, this video is called Redemption of Gifts, and tonight we're going to wrap up our pass-through study here in the book of Leviticus in chapter 27, where we're going to look at the redemption of things vowed to God. So let's look at Leviticus chapter 27 verses 1 and 2. It says, "Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when a man consecrates by a vow certain persons to the Lord according to your valuation, if your valuation is of a male from 20 years old up to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver according to the shekel of the sanctuary." So this final chapter in the book of Leviticus, it's the standard legislation given for the dedication of multiple things, such as people and animals and land and houses. And consecrating someone was to totally give to God. It's to set apart and to give God wholeheartedly. In verse 4 through 8, it says, "If it is a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels. And if from 5 years old up to 20 years old, then your valuation for a male shall be 20 shekels, and for a female 10 shekels. And if from a month old up to 5 years old, then the valuation for a male shall be 5 shekels of silver, and for a female your valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if from 60 years old and above, if it is a male, then your valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for a female 10 shekels. But if he is too poor to pay your valuation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall set a value for him. According to the ability of him who vowed, the priest shall value him." So this sets the gift apart from the rest of his household and possessions as a gift to the Lord and of his service. And persons were assigned a value according to their age that we see and general usefulness to society, especially among the agricultural society. And no one was prohibited from fulfilling a vow of consecration because they didn't have enough money. The priests were flexible with the valuation of the poor. So if the poor couldn't afford, the priest would work with them. In verse 9 through 13 says, "If it is an animal that men may bring as an offering to the Lord, all that anyone gives to the Lord shall be holy. He shall not substitute it or exchange it, good for bad or bad for good. And if he at all exchanges animal for animal, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy. If it is an unclean animal, which they do not offer as a sacrifice to the Lord, then he shall present the animal before the priest. And if the priest shall set a value for it, whether it is good or bad, as you, the priest, value it, so it shall be. But if he wants at all to redeem it, then he must add 1/5 to your valuation." So if an animal was clean and someone wanted to redeem it from a vow of consecration to the Lord, they would exchange it for another animal as long as that animal was also clean and equally suitable for the sacrifice. And if an animal was unclean, it could still be vowed to the Lord and then redeemed, but the priest would have to set a value on the animal, and one would add a fifth to that value, or 20%, and they would give the total to the tabernacle treasury. In verses 14 through 25, it says, "And when a man dedicates his house to be holy to the Lord, then the priest shall set a value for it, whether it is good or bad, as the priest values it, so it shall stand. If he who dedicated it wants to redeem his house, then he must add 1/5 of the money of your valuation to it, and it shall be his. If a man dedicates to the Lord part of a field of his possession, then your valuation shall be according to the seed for it. A homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. If he dedicates his field from the year of Jubilee, according to the valuation it shall stand. But if he dedicates his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon to him the money due according to the years that remain till the year of Jubilee, and it shall be deducted from your valuation. And if he who dedicates the field ever wishes to redeem it, then he must add 1/5 of the money of your valuation to it, and it shall belong to him. But if he does not want to redeem the field, or if he has sold the field to another man, it shall not be redeemed any more, but the field, when it is released in the Jubilee, shall be holy to the Lord. As a devoted field, it shall be the possession of the priests. And if a man dedicates to the Lord a field which has bought, which is not the field of his possession, then the priest shall reckon to him the worth of your valuation up to the year of Jubilee, and he shall give your valuation on that day as a holy offering to the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field shall return to him from whom it was bought, to the one who owned the land as a possession. And all your valuations shall be according to the shekel of the sanctuary, 20 gerahs to the shekel. So, with a house, as in the case with an unclean animal, if a man wanted to consecrate by a vow the house to the Lord while still using it, the priest would set a value on the house, and then one would add 20% to that value and give the total to the tabernacle treasury. And for land, its value was based upon the potential production as well as the number of years until the year of Jubilee. In verse 26-27, but the firstborn of the animals, which should be the Lord's firstborn, no man shall dedicate, whether it is an ox or sheep, it is the Lord's. And if it is an unclean animal, then he shall redeem it according to your valuation, and shall add 1/5 to it. And if it is not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to the valuation. So the firstborn already belonged to the Lord, as it was stated back in Exodus 13, verse 2. And the worshiper couldn't dedicate it a second time. And however, an unclean animal could either be sold or brought back to the Lord. In verse 28-29, nevertheless, no devoted offering that a man may devote to the Lord of all that he has, both man and beast, or the field of his possession, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted offering is most holy to the Lord. No person under the ban who may become doomed to destruction among men shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. So to devote something to the Lord was a step further than just consecration by a vow. It was to destroy the item so that it could not be used by anyone else, and all of its value was given to God. And one could not escape execution by being brought back to the Lord. They had to face the penalty for their crime. And an example of a person under the ban of Achan in Joshua chapter 7. In verse 30-33, says, and all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. If a man wants at all to redeem any of his tithes, he must add 1/5 to it. And concerning the tithe of the herd or the flock or whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He shall not inquire whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it. And if he exchanges it at all, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. So the general tithe was given to the Levites, as in you'll see in our next study in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21-32. And this is the only time that you're going to see tithing mentioned in the book of Leviticus, talking about a tenth. And along with this offering, there were 2 other offerings, and that would total approximately 23% annually. And tithes could be bought back from the Lord instead of tithing good seed from a field. A farmer could pay the value of the seed with an additional 20%. And the final verse in the book of Leviticus says, in verse 34, "These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel on Mount Sinai." So these were not a tradition and customs or suggestions per se. These were actual commandments from God. This is how God wanted Israel to operate, and they were to obey the commandments of the Lord. And as I pointed out here before in the book of Leviticus, the phrase "before the Lord," it occurs more than 60 times in this book, more than any other book in the Bible. So before the Lord, that's the key phrase to remember when you think of the book of Leviticus. And Leviticus is a way to see how to walk before the Lord. The book of Leviticus, it points us to holiness. And hopefully, since we've been going through the study, if you've been following the whole time, sometime between early October, I believe it was, through now, I hope that this book has been a blessing to you and that you desire to get closer to God, and not just worship, but in all that you do, in your offerings. And I hope that you focus on setting yourself apart for God and avoiding the things of this world that can come in between you. But Leviticus is a way to see how to walk before the Lord. And to wrap up, we looked at when a man consecrates a vow of certain persons to the Lord, and we looked at assigning a valuation for a persons that are consecrated by a vow. And we looked at the redeeming property consecrated to God by a vow, such as the different categories of animals, houses, and land. And we looked at the redemption of the consecration vow for the firstborn. And we see one cannot redeem things or persons that were devoted to the Lord. And we looked at the payment of tithes and the conclusion of the book of Leviticus, the call to obey God's commandments. Jesus said in John 14:15, "If you love me, obey my commands." And this wraps up the study that we've been going through for the last 8-9 weeks. And I hope that you continue on with these videos. We're going to move into the book of Leviticus. Not the book of Leviticus. We're going to move into the book of Numbers next. So hopefully you got your calculators ready and paper and pen. We're going to take a math class through most of the winter until the next 12 weeks or 11 weeks, whatever the case might be. Maybe 10 weeks, maybe 15, who knows? It's as the Lord wills. And we'll see you again later this week as we kick off the pass-through in the book of Numbers. So I hope you had a great weekend. This is a little bit different doing a video on a Sunday because I usually don't do videos on Sundays. And I hope you have a great week up ahead. God bless.